What's going on, guys? I'm Mike Holland. I'm an artist manager, entrepreneur, marketer. I worked with artists like Logic, Six, helping careers grow and flourish and building fan bases. And I'm here on Breaking the Biz.
Stay tuned for today's episode of Breaking the Biz, an informative podcast where we dive into the world of entertainment by interviewing seasoned professionals who have made their mark in the industry. Gain invaluable insights as they share their personal journeys, offering advice on navigating the dynamic landscape of the entertainment industry. Whether you're an aspiring actor, musician, filmmaker, author, animator, or any creative soul, tune in for expert career guidance, insider tips, and first-hand accounts on breaking into the entertainment industry. Get ready to unlock the secrets behind successful careers and fuel your own passion for the limelight. Please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channels for more great conversations.
Greetings from Breaking the Biz, brought to you by Yes I Can Unity Through Music and Education. I'm William Felber, your navigator through the intriguing universe of the entertainment industry, as revealed by the visionaries and creators who bring it to life. Stay tuned as we delve into diverse insights from the forefront of entertainment, hearing from pioneers, creators, and agents of change. Prepare for a journey filled with tales of innovation, resilience, and the undying quest for artistic brilliance.
Welcome, everyone, to Breaking the Biz podcast with the Yes I Can crew. We have got a very intelligent, enthusiastic, passionate individual as our guest speaker tonight. We have Mike Holland, who is an artist manager who has worked with Logic and Six, with years of experience in music, film, and social media management. Mike is the manager, like I mentioned, for Grammy-nominated musicians such as Logic and Six. He consults with music labels, their artists, to map out the best performing marketing initiatives. If indeed you're not familiar with Logic, he's received 2 Grammy Award nominations. He's the author of the novel Supermarket, which was accompanied by the namesake soundtrack album, became a New York Best Time seller. On top of that, one of the first artists to be a streamer and sign with Twitch, being the first musician to do so. So obviously, when you see a successful artist, there is always a mastermind of intelligence behind them. And in this situation, we've got Mike with us tonight. So Mike, I want to first of all just thank you for making time for us. Such good karma to you.
No, thanks for having me on, and that was very generous. I'm one small piece of a larger puzzle, but yeah, it's a machine, and honored to be a part of it.
Awesome. So let's talk about that machine. Before you were part of the machine, when did you fall in love with music? I'm probably safe to say music was somewhat around you for your entire life.
I'd say you're right. I have a bit of an untraditional path to music. I never set out really to be a music manager or to be in the music industry. I Back in high school, I was a kid with a video camera, and I'd film my friends skateboarding, and then I started meeting really talented artists. I came from the DMV area, Maryland, outside of DC, and then I started filming for musicians, and I was like, this is such a fun way to be involved in this experience. What other way would I have access to this world? I can't play guitar. I can't sing. I can't, maybe I could keep some rhythm. I get a little in the video editing, but not enough to call it any real talent. So yeah, that introduced me to the scene, and I just worked really hard at it. I understood the power that a camera could have. Now more than ever, but this is back in around 2011, and when cameras first started getting like affordably nice, and so you could do a lot of fun things with it. And so yeah, I back then, Logic is from, for those who don't know, Logic, the rapper, is from the Maryland area. And I was in high school and very much looked up to him. He didn't know who I was. He had no idea. He's a few years older than me. And I very much look up to him, and I was a fan. I was like, finally, like someone doing something for our area. everyone's talking about LA and everyone's talking about New York, but we don't have many, famous rappers or musicians in general from this area. So I want to be a part of this. I just said in my mind, I want to be a part of this. I'm not big on manifesting, but in this case, it sort of seemed to happen. And I met up with him at a concert. I shot my shot. I said, hey, if you need a videographer, I'm your guy. And I convinced myself, okay, I'm hired on the spot. No, he said, go talk to the videographer I already have, and maybe you guys can work out something. So I did. And then I kind of just like became part of the crew. And I was just like kid, long hair, bucket hat, still skateboarding, just having a great time. I went on my first tour, and all of a sudden I'm on a tour bus, and I'm 18 years old, and I'm now 30, just for time of reference. And I was like, wow, what an incredible thing this camera gave to me. I don't think I'm going anywhere. I love it here. This is fun. The camaraderie, the teamwork. You go through the ups and the downs, and the bus breaks down, and you get in accidents, and you're getting off stage, and you're having fun with your friends. And I just, in that moment, I fell in love with it, and I said, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to, find a way to do this my whole life, more or less, in some way. I just want to be involved. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of the moment. A lot has changed since then. I'm not really the guy with the video camera anymore. I do many similar things, and I still work in those spaces quite often. Kind of one thing I've found though, and I'm happy to zoom in however you'd like, but I found that like not a lot has changed from being an individual with a video camera, helping artists put out music videos and vlogs and behind the scenes content. You're helping an artist connect with their fan base, and you're knowing what connects with people, what excites people, what gets people out there to buy music and to spend money and to show up to shows. And then as an artist manager, all of those things, you're still doing those things in kind of a different way, but you still have to think about those things. That's your number one job. So yeah, a lot has changed since then, but that was kind of my first step into music.
And I love that because it is, I always talk about, you need to, you never know when you're going to get your shot. You got to be prepared when you do get that shot. On top of that, people don't look at individuals and go, oh, that's going to be a videographer. That person wants to be in music management. Like, we're just faces. So you have to advocate for yourself. You have to let someone know what you want to do or where your talents lie and how you can help someone. And obviously, being a videographer, being able to collaborate, does speak volumes, right? It's not a competition. Everyone can work together. And I want to talk about the before I talk about the pivot, did you go to school to, did you have ambitions of making films and being an editor or a filmmaker beforehand?
That's 100% right. I still consider myself a filmmaker because I love it. And it's like, if you're a painter and you haven't picked up the brush in a while, like, you're still a painter. And I still thrive off of ideas in that space. And I very much work in a lot of content of all types, of high budget, low budget, whatever. But yeah, I went to school to study documentary. And that wasn't, more or less like, let me go find a way to find a career into filmmaking. It was very much like learning about journalism, learning how to write better, how to communicate better. So while it was a career move, I kind of went for more personal growth means. Like, that was my goal of being there. And I did learn to write and communicate better. I was quite terrible at that in high school. I don't know if I really had the support where I came from. And, it was a great school, but maybe it was work ethic in those spaces, or I was just too excited about my camera. But yeah, I did go to school and somehow found a way to graduate. I wouldn't necessarily say like that's the pathway for everybody. I was leaving quite often to go on tour still, and I traveled to Europe, and I had a ton of distractions because I was trying to balance this career that was growing for me with still finishing school. So I ended up having to take a lot of online classes, and it got messy, but I got through it. But I know a lot of people who went either way, and they can end up in similar situations. I think it depends on what you want and what you're looking from school on, whether or not that's a sound choice for you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I obviously, there's many roads you can take, and there's no guarantee that which road you take will lead you, to what you see as success. But I loved how you mentioned, wasn't necessarily the normal route, but putting yourself in a situation and manifesting absolutely can happen. I do believe positives attract, and when indeed you put your intentions out there, sometimes magic does happen. So in this case, magic does happen. You go on your first tour. You mentioned the camaraderie, the experience of traveling and touring and being on a tour bus. When did the shift happen? Obviously, relationships are really made on those long travel roads. When did you pivot into that manager role?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it feels like you kind of know like things I haven't told anyone the way you kind of lead up to these questions. But yeah, you are on these buses for a long time. Like Logic and this whole crew. A lot of people have come and gone over the years, but it's family, right? We were doing shows at 200 cap rooms. He's now sold out Madison Square Garden, and he's developed into quite an act. But we've gone through a lot together. But yeah, kind of going back to what you said about advocating for yourself. The side of myself that I knew I was good at was like writing, storytelling. I had a passion for film and TV and books. And Logic, being the incredible artist that he isn't just a rapper or musician. He's also a storyteller. He's an actor. He's a screenwriter. He's a best-selling, like you said, he's a best-selling novelist. And he's a director, and he's a producer. He's all these things. And that's the world I come from, right? So he's up in his the way the buses are set up. Once you get to kind of a certain level of artist, is that first tour wasn't like this at all. We were roughing it. It was barely a bus. It was more of like a trailer. It was really bumpy, but as the career progresses, he gets like a nice suite in the back of the bus. So we all are in these bunks that are stacked one on top of each other with these curtains, and then he has a room with a little shower and a thing. And then that's well into his career, but he says, Mike, come back here. I want you to read something. And he shows me a script, and he's like, I'm also working on this book. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, look, like, I love this stuff. Like, I want to read it. I was offering advice on, okay, maybe the story arc comes in here. This character comes in here. And then we just became really close creative partners. To the point where it was just like every hour that we were with each other, we'd want to be writing or creating something. And so this isn't really answering your question of when I turned to manager, but it gets there. We became close creative partners, and dove into TV and film together. He wanted to start a production company, wanted to get into acting. He released his first novel, which very grateful he dedicated to me because of all the time we spent together putting it out. And yeah, we got really close, and that was kind of my first taste of, okay, like, I have to run some of this business for this guy. I started representing him in TV and film and acting, and I'd go into rooms with Hollywood agents and producers, and in Nickelodeon and Paramount and J.J. Abrams, and I was like this kid essentially, and I felt like a kid, and I was like, I have to pretend like I belong here. So it was really like a fake it till you make it type of moment. I just felt so out of place, but all you can do is kind of move forward and pretend and tell yourself, look, I belong here. Like, I understand, and I feel like I understand a good movie or a TV show or a book just as well as anybody else in this room, even though they're all famous and have been doing this forever. So I found that that's more or less the case. Management is, like we said earlier, is very similar to creative spaces. You have to understand what works and what doesn't work. And then how well you can negotiate a contract, that's good. You need to be able to do that. You need to be able to advocate for your people and represent them. But if you can't put together a good creative product, whether it be in TV or film or music, nothing else really matters. So once I learned that, I was like, you know what? I really enjoy being a manager. It kind of allows me to stay creative and keep my hands on everything. And I'm kind of doing the same thing, but just at a different level. Logic then a few years later parted ways with his music managers that he came up with. And then once again, I advocated, excuse me, I advocated for myself to fill that role. And so I partnered with Justin Fleischer, who I'd been working with on many things in and around Logic at the time, and we became Logic's music managers. And yeah, once again, found myself in situations that I was unfamiliar, and you kind of just learn as you go.
What's fantastic that I love the most is about you, Mike, is your strong growth mindset. I talk about having a strong growth mindset is what will get you through the door, will continue to make you successful, and as long as you're willing to learn and take on projects that come your way, someone with a strong growth mindset doesn't say, no, I can't do that. I haven't done it yet. Someone with a strong growth mindset goes like, haven't done that yet, but I'm pretty sure I can navigate it and make it happen. Right? Like you got to bet on yourself, and you have that. So there's no doubt I can see why, obviously being able to collaborate and throw ideas back, but to have someone that truly has your back, you need that in this industry. And going into those rooms, which can be scary, you need to have someone like yourself that's willing to advocate and make sure that you're not taken advantage of. Obviously, in the lyricist and performance, he's got that locked in, but writing a book and screenplay and then creating a company later on and having all of these ambitions. A lot of people have those ambitions, but just don't know how to put those pieces together. And obviously, I love how you're able to put those pieces together. But even furthermore, going back to all of the skills that you had and the things that you were exploring on yourself, those skill sets always come in handy. We had last week Candace Newman, who shared that she was doing wedding planning, but loved the events and on that scale, and then went to doing PR and marketing in the music space, and then into an assistant role at Live Nation, then onward, obviously, trajectory to working with Rihanna and some of these other, big artists. But in the end, it's always still tapping back to those skills that you have and the passion and that 360 moment of being right back to, the skill sets that you have. So let's talk about those skill sets, because obviously to be an artist manager, you have to be organized. You have to see the bigger picture, right? You have to be able to frame everything. Talk me through some of the skills that you bring to the table on the artist management side.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily skills. There's certainly skills. But I'd say what I find most important is understanding. As an artist manager, you're usually the individual. Yes, you're representing your client, but you're looking to make things happen with other people. And a lot of people have different ideas of what things should be and how they should be. So, I think a lot of people think, okay, as a manager, you kind of have to like kick down doors. You have to be mean. Of course, like I believe you should not be taken advantage of by any means, but having a really good understanding of where people are coming from, whether it be a creative decision, something that's personal, work-life balance, ego, being able to understand that and implement it into your everyday, it gets you through everything and it makes things a lot better. So I don't mean to speak too abstractly. I know that's not necessarily a hard skill, but maybe I would put it this way, is like being able to slow down is I think really important as an artist manager, and understand that um, a career isn't decided in a few minutes. It's not decided in a day. It's hardly decided in a week. It's about making good, consistent choices over and over. I think this goes for anything, not just musicians. Um, but it's about making good, small or big decisions over and over consistently, and knowing that not one of those, if it goes good or bad, is going to make or break what happens to your career. So do not react like it will, and just trust yourself, trust each other. You have to be a good friend for the artist. I think there's not really a way to be an artist manager without really understanding who the artist is as a person. Whether or not you want to call it friendship, you really just have to understand that person deeply, and know what they want, and when they say something, sometimes what it really means, and be able to act on that, or not act on that, or delay, and really just be that buffer, so they're free to be themselves, and nothing kind of goes off the rails. So I'd say, yeah, I'd say maybe the number one skill of a music manager is, of course, be creative, be bold, take big swings, but also slow down and make sure the small wins are accumulating, and you're doing that day after day, week after week.
I love that answer. It's perfect. It's very poetic, but it's so true, right? Like, um, everything builds, and you need that growth, and it doesn't happen overnight. And friendship, obviously, you've put in some years working with Logic as well, so relationships just grow. I want to ask, you're obviously here mentoring and passing on insight and those cheat codes that we joked about earlier. Is there a mentor that you have that you can look to when indeed you're, in a situation where you're like, what's the right move to make here? Is there someone that you can bounce those ideas off with as a mentor other than Logic?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. I think, when I was younger, earlier in my career, I certainly had more like specific mentors. Like, okay, this person has followed my path that I want to go in. Anything from big career advice to how do I set up an invoice? I remember asking that to someone once, and it's a real thing. It's just like, okay, if you don't know, you don't know. I'd say where I'm at in my career, I have people that are great sounding boards. I don't know if I necessarily have like the same style of mentors that I used to. I kind of would love to have one. If anyone listening to this is like, hey, no, but no, what I have is great people in my corner who I know what to ask for, when to ask for, and I know their strengths. So if it's a general career question, I have someone who I can go to, and if it's more specific, hey, here's this music terminology, royalty terminology that I need to understand a little better. I have different people for different things, and I find that to be really great. Um, but yeah, I think if someone were to come along and I'm like, this is certainly like a path I want to follow, um, I would jump on that. I think mentorship is so important. And if you can't get it from one person, maybe do what I'm doing, and just find it in different ways. Not everyone could be everything. So that's also a good way to get the most out of people in a
I love
positive
it.
way.
And you mentioned knowing people's strengths. I feel like that is very important in a leadership role, is surrounding yourself with talented individuals where maybe your talents aren't necessarily so much in you know what I mean? You just have those people around you that make you better, but you know what their specialties are. I think that's absolutely vital. You mentioned
100%, 100%.
balancing work and life, and obviously you're on the road. I'm guessing still on the road, even as a manager working this closely. How do you balance work and life and find that common ground?
That's a great question. I'm a big believer in work-life balance and I practice it. There's a time and place in everyone's career to maybe lock in a little harder than other times, but I think I'm really grateful that everyone around me at this point really believes in it as well. Um, the hustle culture mindset is kind of fun, but it's not sustainable. And if you're someone looking to break into the business, that could be an exciting way to approach things for maybe a year or two is, hey, I'm just going to do nothing but go after it. And maybe that's necessary sometimes. I don't think it's always necessary, but no, I think work-life balance is very important. I have a baby on the way. So that's exciting. And this is a topic and a question I'm going to have to navigate more and more as my life changes in this way. But regarding, the people around me, my artist, Six, super talented producer. We just put out an album. I go golfing with him once a week, and we don't really talk about work. It's incredible. We might like think of one thing on a hole here or there and bring it up, but we just kind of get out there and we forget everything. And I think our creative work and our business work benefits from that to really explore the world. Not that golfing's the best example of that, but plenty of other things, travel, being with your friends, going out, seeing movies, kind of anything but working where you're, experiencing something. It can bring a lot into what you're doing. And to not have perspective, only hurts creativity, and business, I think. So I think work-life balance is not only necessary just for sanity and mental health, but also I think it benefits your work to have good balance. Regarding Logic, he's certainly come a long way as well. He used to be kind of that grind mentality, and now he's in an undisclosed location on 80 acres of land with his two children and riding dirt bikes, and he's working when he works, but he's certainly slowing down in his own way and really enjoying life, and he's earned it and he deserves it. And we're all finding kind of our new challenges, our next challenges, new things to work on, whether together or separately. And that's a phase in my life that I'm really excited for.
I love it. First off, congratulations on the baby. It is an amazing experience, and someone like yourself who works hard, it makes all of that working hard, it puts it all in perspective. So you're going down a very exciting time. So congratulations on that. Let's talk
Thank
about
you.
challenges as an artist manager. Obviously, there's the highs of the highs, and there's some lows. Give me some of the challenges.
Yeah, the challenges, man, the challenges really as an artist manager is that you're not the artist. And that's a good thing if you're unless you're a really talented musician, but you're not the artist. And this goes back to what I was saying a little bit before, but you really have to understand that you can guide the ship, but only so much. And you have to make sure the ship doesn't crash, and you have to lead it to great places. But you can't control everything. And that's a good thing, I think. But that also takes some getting used to. Your job is to make sure that that artist is doing their best work and connected with the best people that they could possibly be connected with. But at the end of the day, art and music only really works if it's coming from the heart, right? And I think that's really important to remember is this word authenticity gets thrown around a lot. But it's true. And we all are music lovers, I assume, or art lovers, I assume. We can sense when something's inauthentic and doesn't feel right and not done for the right reasons. people. We're all super smart individuals, and we have it in our gut, and we have it in our heart, and we could tell. So as an artist manager, you might think something is a great idea, but if your artist um, doesn't feel that decision, whether it be creative or anything else in their heart, it's not going to work. So you have to go with what they want to go with, and you have to make that great. It's not yours, it's theirs. And I think that's important to remember for artist managers.
I love it. Speaking of authentic, let's talk about the Twitch and the gaming, right? I'm going to guess Logic is a gamer, and it was a natural progression into the Twitch, but talk us through that deal.
Yeah, yeah. I was across that deal in terms of being his at the time his creative partner. So I didn't exactly pen the deal, but I was a part of its execution. And yeah, I think he was very much ahead of the curve when it came to streaming and live streaming and gaming. And it's awesome to see that artists or just any creative, anyone in general can turn a camera on, sit at home, and because they are who they are, um, they find success. Uh, he thankfully already had success, but I think it helped draw a lot of attention um, to the democratization of content. And that's what I love to see about that. Just people hanging out with people online who are like-minded, whether it's Logic or anybody else, and you have, 5 viewers in your live stream. It's like that's incredible. Like you are tapped in with people. Like I think people underestimate how hard it is to, get the attention of people. So whether it be like 5,000 or 50,000, like that, like it's incredible that people can do that. But yeah, I think at this point, our world is set up that if you have a passion, you can go for it. If it's filmmaking or music or, now gaming, where in the past that was considered a distraction and just something to do after your homework or after work. We now have careers and everything we love to do. So it's only good for the world.
Being an educator, it's funny. I can remember when people told me, "Oh, when I want to be a YouTuber or this or that," and it's like, yeah, pick a real career, right? But like, no, there's lots of money that can be made and that can be a career. How technology has changed, and I was never one of those people like, oh, you'll never do that. But I was always like, hey, what about the plan B's and C's? But the joke's on me because those people are doing quite well. And obviously, lots of people have followed Logic down that road and are making great money connecting it. And again, it comes back to what you're saying, being able to connect with your audience and how important that is. Obviously, those are people down the line that are buying albums and buying tickets. And you mentioned 200 people shows to being able to sell out Madison Square Garden is a huge accomplishment. Let's talk about networking. Obviously, you shared your way in, right? How important has networking been to your continued success?
Yeah, I think networking is a must. It's more not like if you network, but it's how you network. And everyone needs to play to their strengths. I think if you're someone who can easily socialize and go to a party or whatever it is and just talk to anybody, that's great. Lean into that. I'm personally not really one of those people. Um, I, I, I have specific connections and find very direct commonalities that I like to talk about, and I like to connect with people over time. I'm certainly not like the center of happy hour by any means, but I'm very lucky to have not only a very close group of friends in my personal life, but also a very close circle in my professional life, and that circle is always growing and changing. Um, but it's important just to have relationships. I think that's all networking is. networking isn't always a cold email or a cold DM, although that's how I ended up here. So shout out to that. But that's worked out for me plenty of times too. Master the cold email, the cold DM. Why not? But it's about nurturing relationships too. It's not just about meeting people. It's not about just asking for things. It's about giving and taking, like any other relationship. So you can have a large network, but if those relationships aren't meaningful, that network won't do much for you. Um, and you can have a smaller network that you have very impactful relationships, very meaningful relationships, and that can go pretty far. Find your balance. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but lean into the type of person that you are and how you communicate with people. Even if it's just one mentor or someone else is doing a similar thing than you, that's how it starts, and it just builds from there. It's a snowball effect. So just make meaningful relationships, I guess.
I love it. And I knew you were a real one, Mike. I had that vibe. I knew it was a real. So
You're
let
right
me,
up the street.
yeah,
How could I not?
I love it. Let me ask you, is there a positive mantra that you find yourself saying, or it just kind of keeps you focused, positive?
Oh, that's such a good question. I was literally talking about that this morning, and I was mad at my iPhone because I set a reminder. I'm not a big mantra person or a self-affirmation person, but I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I want to mess with that world a little. And I'm mad at my iPhone because I set it to tell me this like every morning, and it's a really weird sentence. It almost doesn't even make grammatical sense, and it almost sounds like half a sentence. Um, but I've been kind of liking it lately. It's you can just do things. And I think I enjoy that because if you have an idea or you have a thought or an experiment or a song or something you want to write, I think a lot of people can get stuck, myself certainly, um, on over analyzing what it's going to be 2, 3, 5, 10 steps down the road. And um, a lot of the times, and I'm really just speaking to myself here, a lot of the times that could be a self-fulfilling prophecy if you talk yourself out of doing something that you're excited to do or you're passionate about because you're unsure of what something could possibly look like. So I like to say, if you're excited, you think about doing things, you could just do things, just do them. I think that's a Nike advertisement, but yeah, that's what I've been
No,
trying to tell myself lately.
it is great. And again, I think it does come down to that growth mindset that you have, right? Like you can do it if you dream it. And a lot of times we are our own worst enemies. We get in our own way of success. Sometimes our comfort zone is success is on the other side of our comfort zone, and we give up on things because I can't do that, or that won't work. But if you think it, make it happen. So I love that. My last question before I turn it over to some questions from our listeners. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give to a young Mike with all that you've experienced thus far in this industry? Uh, you know, I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's such a hard question. I would say, obviously you don't want to change anything if you're happy with how things turned out. So you don't want to alter things too much. I think I hear this one a lot, but a reminder to enjoy the process. I think, those times, and I did for the most part. Um, but the times where you're unsure, if we're going back to that, where you don't really know what the next step is, or you're grinding it out with friends or by yourself and you're working on something, um, you have to remember that that's going to be a very pivotal part in your story as a person. Um, and you're going to look back at that moment usually fondly. Um, but you also want to know that like you had fun when that was going on, like the really special times building and figuring things out, uncertainty, all these things that have negative connotations are actually just adventure. So yeah, I'd say just a reminder to enjoy that stuff. Um, and then trust your gut, not to do the cliche one, but it kind of goes back to what we were saying with artists. It's like art is only as good as what's coming from the heart. So if you're doing anything other than that, whatever you're putting out there in the world, whether it be business, creative, um, it's not going to be worthwhile. It's not going to be quality. So trust your gut, do it from the heart.
I feel like that is a really important message. I feel like that gut does tell us so much about what's right, what's wrong. I always joke if say it's like kind of like that Jedi powers that you might have, but the gut really does let you know if you're going in the right direction. And you're so right on, as listeners of art, we can tell when something is not authentic and it doesn't feel right and they're trying too hard or trying this. So I vibe it and I feel it. So I love it. Let's go over to some questions. Bianca, I see your hand up. Go for it.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. I'm trying to say, oh, hey, I was trying to find your square. Hi, Bianca. How are you
Hello.
doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Um, er,
Thanks for tapping in.
of course. Thank you for joining us and being a guest. Earlier, well, first of all, on the topic of lot, since you work with a very high profile artist such as Logic, I have to ask, were you with, well, I have two questions. Were you with Logic on the ride of as his song eight the suicide prevention song was rising and being the known song that it is. And when you talk about manifestation, who do you want to manage? Who's that one? Who are those artists that you want to manage or dream
Uh,
of managing?
yeah, that's a great question. Both great questions. So yes, I was with Logic. I was not his manager during the time of when that song took off. I was his creative director and film and TV manager and producing partner. So I was working on many sides of his career. So I was deeply involved in how that song was put out, um, the creative around it, the visual aspects, the press, the music videos, all of the above from that role. Um, and how I describe that is, first of all, the song had such a positive impact. So that was really incredible to see. I don't know if that experience can be directly compared with having another type of hit song because uh, it touched at something pretty impactful there. And so it felt like not only having the rush of, okay, we have a hit song, everybody in the world is listening to this, it's top whatever on the radio, all those things that you want as a musician, but also, okay, Congress is inviting Logic to speak, and reports are coming out by organizations saying the song saved X amount of lives, and that that was just really incredible to be a really small part of that big impact. So, but just from like a music perspective, um, especially with someone I'd been with so long, who we'd been doing small shows with, to see that person become, in that moment, a household name, I would say that's the moment that happened, was kind of everything you want to see happen when you work with artists. And so yeah, that's part one. I'd say part two on manifestation. Yes, I am manifesting. I love managing artists, and I want to help artists in a big way. I'd say my goals right now aren't necessarily to help bigger artists, more famous artists. I'm kind of at this point more interested in finding ways to help and aid and teach aspiring artists, emerging artists. I think, we've never had a moment that's where anyone can kind of step into the music business and take their shot, record songs and put them out. The door is open, the floodgates are open, and I want to see that done well. I want to see artists not getting taken advantage of, and knowing how to collect their royalties and all the options that are available to them. And as we were talking about earlier, team building. So right now I'm working on a tool called Foundation, which is a learning app for emerging artists, anyone who's interested in music, really, to dive in, spend 5 to 10 minutes a day learning the music business, front to back, beginner to expert level lessons. And that's something I'm passionate about. It's something I would probably use now if I wasn't making it. And it's something I certainly would have used when getting into the business, because we were talking about mistakes earlier and learning from them, and I certainly made a lot of mistakes when it came to just knowing terminology and how to negotiate a record deal and all those things. And if I could have avoided those, that would have been really great. But yeah, so I think I'm manifesting how to help artists on a larger scale now, not necessarily more famous artists, but very similar in different ways.
Well, it's already happened before it happened. So, mind.
There it is. There it
Nice.
is. I love it.
it.
I love it.
Thank you, Bianca.
Lewis, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Mike. I'm a photographer, and I photograph music artists and local shows and bands, etc. But I was very interested in that part you mentioned where you were Logic's creative director on his artistic side with the music videos and such. What advice can you give on setting up the visual concept of a music video?
Great question. I love that you're a photographer. I actually forgot to mention, but I also handled Logic's photography for years.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Really love that part of things. Really, really fun. Just, whatever it is for you, if it's a career or hobby or anything in between, it's just super fun. The question, correct me if I'm wrong, is how to set up kind of a creative vision for content and music videos.
So kind of like to set up a video to direct, come up with its artistic vision and collaborate with the artist on what we're trying to achieve, but also kind of bring that vision to life through the direction of the said video and like photograph the process of it.
100%. Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's not too different from being a music manager in the way that you got to find out kind of what speaks to the artist. I think some artists will have a very specific idea about what they want. Okay, this is where the camera's going to come in, and we're going to have this type of lighting, this mood, and all of that, very specific. And some artists won't. Some artists might give you a few words about the vibe they want, and as a director, you kind of have to find, okay, what are they really getting at? What speaks to the rest of their brand? How is this also different from the rest of their brand in a cohesive way, but in a challenging way? And have fun with it. Like I remember my first music video I directed that was a bit different than me just holding a camera, which I'd done many times over, and I probably felt this way in the beginning too, but I'd done so many music videos where I was the person with the camera, and I did one that was a bit higher of a budget, and it had a car in it, and it had some fire and all this stuff, and I was like, I felt like I was out of my league, and someone welcomed me to set and told me that production assistants are over that way, and I was like, I'm the director, and they're like, oh really? Okay, awkward. And I just kind of felt out of place. And then we started shooting, and I remembered, okay, this is what I do. This is no different. It kind of doesn't matter what level you're at. You're still having fun with it. You're still creating, whether you're holding the camera or not. Right. I think it's important to remember to have fun with it, and just to remember it's a creative process. It's it's not a pass or fail.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Most music videos I've seen from especially the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of these music videos had this artistry, this really beautiful aesthetic that's kind of grimy, but also very colorful. And I'm starting to see it come back. So it's like, can we recapture that caliber? It's like treating it like a film production. Can we capture the calibration of shooting a film and some incredible cinematography and bringing that energy, translating it to a music video?
You got to be the one to do it. I love that. I want to see it from you.
Oh no, for sure, 100%. Like I've seen some incredible stuff.
I love it. Oh, I'd love to see what you come up with, Brett. If we can
Yeah.
If you
Amen.
Oh, it'll be a
mind.
process. It'll
If
be
you
a
don't,
process.
if you don't mind sharing.
we'll make it happen. Chris, go ahead and ask your question. I see your hand up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello. What's going on, Mike? It's good to see you in action.
Hey,
Um,
Chris.
hello. If I can give like a 10-second breakdown of who I am and whatnot. I've actually been producing, mixing, and mastering my own stuff for like a good 7+ years of my own, and I just graduated from 1500 Sound Academy, so I got a lot of experience, a lot of exposure. And I was actually like just going into like the music business and just kind of learning all the ins and outs and whatnot. And you as an artist manager, I'm assuming you scouted out a couple of different people in the industry. As for myself that does all these different things, kind of like this one-man army, how do I market myself to where you have different artist managers or A&Rs that can scout other artists, including myself? Like, how do we like brand ourselves and market ourselves like better?
Yeah, that's a great question. Especially as a producer who you're typically known as a behind the scenes person. But producers have to market themselves too. And they have to know how to get themselves out there. And there's a few ways to do that as a producer. I think we're seeing more and more producers become content creators, which I think is great. It doesn't detract from the art they make at all. There's a lot of very talented, incredible musicians and producers who do content creation. Now, that's not for everybody. Not everyone wants to be a content creator. Not everyone has to be a content creator, especially if you're a producer. But you know, I'd say keep keep working on those relationships. Something I suggest is possibly, developing relationships with artists specifically, and seeing what you can build and how you can progress, and the networking can come and will come, but see how you can push yourself to be kind of the best producer possible. And you make great stuff, it gets out there, and a lot of the rest falls into place. You'd be surprised. So just don't stop pushing yourself creatively, and work with people that you care about.
Perfect.
Okay, for sure.
Great questions. I see there's still some hands, but I'll filter those questions out after with Mike. I got to be respectful of Mike's time. Mike, I want to thank you once again for joining us tonight. The ups, the downs, the pros, the cons, sharing the insight is invaluable. I want to wish you continued success. Enjoy that baby. Take that time and do that. And balance that for sure. But just continued good success for you, good health, and good karma for paying it forward and sharing your knowledge. And on that note, I want to thank everyone for joining us on Breaking the Biz tonight. Mike, I'm going to go to you for closing. You've been amazing.
Absolutely. No, I that was perfect. Thanks for having me on. This has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure hearing from those who asked questions. I know there are others we didn't get to. Brett, let's please work out a way that I can answer those or be of assistance in other ways if any other questions might pop up. Really love what you do, and it seems like a great organization. So just thank you, everybody, for the love, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
As we conclude another enriching episode, we hope you found inspiration in the stories shared today. Let's take a moment to honor Yes I Can's role in bringing Breaking the Biz to life. Yes I Can's commitment to empowering young people with disabilities through education, advocacy, and mentorship shines brightly, paving paths of opportunity and dialogue. This podcast celebrates the organization's dedication to nurturing talent and facilitating impactful discussions. Breaking the Biz is more than a podcast. It's a part of Yes I Can's broader mission to amplify voices, dismantle barriers, and craft a world that's more inclusive and accessible for everyone. Each episode is a chapter in our shared narrative of progress, education, and empowerment, driven by the spirit of Yes I Can. Thank you for spending your time with us on Breaking the Biz. Continue to challenge the status quo and share stories that resonate. Until our paths cross again, let's keep transforming aspirations into achievements and infuse every endeavor with optimism. Here's to advancing the landscape of the entertainment industry, one episode at a time. I'm your host, William Felber. See you next time.